What is God? Here's my view of what is God. So God is not a kingly being that sits up in the sky and pokes its stick at us ants. It's not a being that tells us what to do and will throw us in a dungeon if we do the wrong thing. God is not any of what religion makes it out to be, because that's just an idea, an interpretation on reality, not absolute truth. What God is not an object inside of the universe, nor is it an object outside of the universe, because any object that exists in the universe is dependent on some other object for its own existence. Likewise, if you say that there's an object called God that exists outside of the universe, then you are drawing an arbitrary line between what's inside and what's outside of the universe. What exists outside of reality is just reality, right? What's outside of everything is part of everything. So likewise, an object that exists outside of the universe is actually an object that exists inside of the universe, since the universe includes everything that possibly exists. So follow me here. What I view God as absolute infinity. Everything that exists is God. The source, the first cause, that's simply what God is. If you try to pinpoint the cause of God, you're going to get an infinite regress, since God represents something that is eternal and is self-caused. And not something that is self-caused cannot have a first cause to that, because any cause of something that's self-caused is going to have an infinite chain of regressions, which that doesn't disprove God. That's part of the infinite nature of God. So let's just get clear on this. God is not some being that exists in reality. God is being itself. God is reality itself. Now you might wonder, why do you call the universe God? Why do you call reality God? Why not just call it reality and universe? Because when you realize that reality is infinitely intelligent, infinitely powerful, and infinitely good, what other thing do you call that other than God? That is the literal definition of God. It is existence that's infinitely intelligent, all powerful, all good. And whenever you realize the infinite intelligence to reality, you can't help but look at the universe and just say, oh my God. It's amazing. Whenever you have an awakening to what the universe is, to what reality is, you can't help but realize that this is what was meant by God. God is not some object that we worship. God is existence, the miracle of consciousness that we worship. We worship our own miraculousness because we are also God.